It's just grown. Hi, friends. We're admiring Chris's mustache today. Are you doing the twirling thing again? Oh, I love that.
I am.
Yeah.
It's getting into twirling range. Well, it might stay, it might go, because I'm doing a show right now, and the idea is that it will be. I'll probably darken it, and we want like a vaudeville villain
Like a
style
cartoon
mustache.
villain? Yeah.
Exactly that. So we're gonna see if it gets long enough to make it play on stage.
Nice.
That's terrifying.
But that's why, and so I kind of just trimmed my regular beard now, and so it kind of highlights it rather than it was a similar length, and then I kind of pared it down, but I have to keep the mustache.
I love it.
Welcome back to the Mustache Show, mustache grooming tips with me, your host Chris George, and mustache specialist Ray of Ray's Retros.
Welcome on in, folks.
Famous fake mustache holder Ruel.
Yes.
Did you know that Ruel's beard and mustache are completely fake?
It's
Chad?
only fake, folks. Yeah, you can just rip it right off.
He glues it down every time in the pre-show. But you don't get to see it. He puts it on right at the exact time to keep his image as being the wisest board game guru out there in the land.
Oh, board game guru, I like it. Friends, welcome to the R&R Show. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the pre-show where we chat and get ready to record the main show, which is going to be our top 12 must-have games. So thank you for sticking around, and be sure to subscribe. You can do that for free with an Amazon Prime account, and if you do, you get one of the little avatars right around below, and you get to have fun with that. I want to thank Ray for joining us today. Ray is back. Welcome back, Ray. How the heck are you?
I am good. I'm good. I missed this show very much, so I'm glad to be back. I just have been in the summer of panic currently. If you are just a board game enthusiast and you don't work behind the scenes at all, this is the best time of the year. There's so many conventions, there's so many releases, and behind the scenes, if you're like me, you're having an absolute meltdown every single day. So that's where I've been. We just have got a lot going on over at the Op. It's all very exciting stuff. The Op puts out an insane amount of titles every year, and I think at the time of the last R&R show recording, we had 18 separate products releasing between the recording of that show and Gen Con, not counting our Gen Con releases. So There's been a lot going on. If you work behind the scenes, if you work in the industry, Gen Con prep happened like yesterday. So we're all in the trenches of that right now. But most of that, I got a lot of work done the last couple weeks, and I'm just getting ready for Origins, which would be really fun and really chill.
Now, quick, Ray, here's a test. Speed round. Name all 18.
Oh
no! Do you actually want me to try? Because I probably could.
I can name one.
But you have 18 seconds. No, that's too much. You have 32 seconds. Your time begins now.
Oh, 18 is too much, but 32 isn't.
30,
It's. Oh, you cannot do that.
28,
it's Ouija Exorcist.
27,
It's Hello Kitty Tokyo
25,
Skate. It's My Melody Yahtzee. It's Move Like Me.
20,
A game I can't talk
19,
about. Another game I can't talk about.
No, say those and you get double bonus points. You get double bonus points. And I've paused the timer. I've paused it, and you get the timer pauses if you say one right now. Say one right now. You get
if I break NDA.
Yeah. You get the timer will pause. It's okay. Just say it. Oh no! Now the timer keeps going. Oh, look what you've done. 18, 17.
Oh Jesus.
16. You're at 4. 15. 12. That's not
so many NDAs.
14,
oh, okay.
13. Now we're actually at 12. 11.
But blank slate
10,
challenge.
9.
I'm looking around my room now.
8.
Oh no.
7. 6. 5. 4. You can just make them up.
Monopoly.
3. Oh, that's a good
Family
one.
Guy, Monopoly.
That's
something
good.
Else.
We'll hold for the Monopoly run.
Another one.
It's Monopoly finale run. Yeah, we'll give you 3 for Monopolies.
Monopoly Grey's Anatomy.
There you go.
I think I got like half.
2.
Oh, and then Parks and Rec Trivial Pursuit.
And you got one more. Here's
nice.
your bonus. Here's your bonus one. Do you have another one?
No, I think that's all I got.
Great. That's it.
Okay.
Ruel, what was the score?
I do think I talked about some games I'm not supposed to talk about.
My unofficial count was 7 plus a bunch of can't talk about these right now.
Well, a bunch of can't talk about this is pretty good.
Yeah.
We're gonna assume it's 11. Can't talk about.
We're
So
announcing a bunch of games in the next like 2 weeks, so it's fine. But
It's fine if you say them now. You're right.
yeah,
Right on. Folks, let us know how the audio and video is on your end. That's what we do during the pre-show. We do all the audio and video checks because that's how we roll on the live stream, and hopefully we'll get everything right before the main recording of the show. And Chris, you are, speaking of shows, you just started rehearsals. How is that going? And I mean, you got the twirly mustache. I figure it's going.
I got the twirly
well.
mustache.
Yeah.
Well, I really have the mustache just for our list today. The top 12 mustache games.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
When you said must have, there was delight on my face, and that is what the delight was from, because I heard it in that moment.
Oh my goodness! That's it, folks. I'm out of here.
Stick a fork in you. You're done.
I'm so done. Mustache, folks. Yeah, we are doing the top 12 mustache games. I can't believe why did I fall for that? That's just so brilliant.
It is true. Imagine Eric was my accomplice. Before recording, I tied a damsel in distress to some train tracks. So I'm hoping to smoke out Popeye. No, I'm really excited. What I'm really excited about is that we're doing 2 shows. We're doing Alice in Wonderland and we're doing 12th Night, and then we're doing a one night only version of Macbeth. Unrehearsed. Nobody knows who everybody else is playing.
What?
You just show up with your part learned, and you don't know anybody else's lines. Like, you don't see the full script. You just get their cue lines, and that's it.
Wait,
so you're
really?
like, what is the cut of this play?
Wow.
So that should be pretty fun. But also, what I'm really excited about is that I've got a really board game focused cast. Like, there's a couple people who have worked at some board game cafes. A couple of people last summer who I introduced to a bunch of games, and so I am super stoked and stressed about getting all the games that I brought. I put out a video on my channel on Friday of packing and the stress that goes into packing. That sort of thing. So
that's so cool that you've got a board game of a heavy cast. So are you going to employ them to get some of the games off your shelf of shame played?
Well, you know what? I really I had a couple friends who I knew I would see who are board gamers, and so I gave them my BGG profile. And so I was like, hey, make requests. And so essentially I brought a lot of like their requests, and then I put in some for Renee. And because she shouted at me because I was putting in too many bad games that she didn't want to play. So then I had to make room for Rococo. That's just the most horrible thing to pack. It's so huge.
Yeah.
But it's very fun. And I haven't played the expansion yet, so it's all right.
Nice.
And then I can add in some smaller games or whatever. And then I might have a couple coming to me as well.
Right on.
One that I am really excited to try with the cast is a game called Adventure Party by Smirk and Dagger. I had a Kickstarter a while back. I think it's just delivering, and so they reached out to me, and I was like, I think this would be really fun to play, especially with actors. It's like Wavelength, but with D&D storytelling. You roll a dice behind your screen, and then you have to tell the story of like how your hit resolves, and people have to guess what your number was. So it's like if you rolled a 1, you have to like describe what that 1 would be, or like you rolled a 6, like how do you make that 6 work in this bar fight, right? Like I take out my sword and like it breaks against the sword, but I slowly scrape across the ogre's face or something. And so I think that could be. I'm really hoping that'll be a hit.
That sounds really fun.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, wow.
I think it's a really neat concept in that like storytelling vein.
Yeah.
I don't often go for storytelling games as well, but I think that might just hit a really nice balance. So I'm excited to see how that one hits.
I'm surprised you don't do more storytelling.
I was just going to say the same thing.
With every TTRPG person I've ever met.
Yeah.
I'm really like foot in both TTRPGs and board games. Every TTRPG person I've met is like some form of a theater nerd, and I'm very surprised that isn't something you're more into. Do you know why that is?
I really like it. I mean, like I've done a few campaigns. Like I did a really fun campaign called the Mouse Guard. That was a fun system where you're all these mice and there's a weasel war that's looming. I played a mouse who was a very tall mouse named Wet Rat, who just wanted to be king of the weasels. That was my goal. I made
That's
that my
amazing.
entire first. And so every time I was like, no, I'm going to be king of the weasels. And so like I was kind of like on this side, on everybody's side, but like I wanted to be king of the weasels. I did achieve my goal by chopping off the king weasel's head and
Nice,
wearing it
nice.
as a mask.
Very
Okay.
normal.
Just a
Very
normal
normal.
way.
Very cool.
Yeah, a little Silence of the Lambs action
pretty
there.
cool. I think what it is, like, so I quite enjoy doing campaigns and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But I think what it is now is that like I just don't have time to commit to these campaigns, which is a
Sure.
bummer, because like if I had more time, I really enjoy like getting a group together, and like I've had a ton of fun like creating these characters. Some of the most memorable moments of gaming like have come from
Yeah.
these sorts of things. But I think for a regular tabletop game, I don't often go for things that are like storytelling, because sometimes it feels like too much work. That's really what it comes down
That's
to.
totally fair. That's valid.
fair. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy. It's the same reason why sometimes I think I bounce off some narrative campaigns, or why I'm getting more into like campaigns that have an audio narration, that then I don't have to read the audio narration out loud, because it usually falls upon me to like do the reading. Or if I'm with somebody playing a campaign game, I'm like, nah, you read it. This will be fun for me if you do it. But I think because it does find that work. John Tripp knows Mouse Guard. Yeah,
nice.
Mouse Guard's a fun system. It was actually very, very fun. I could talk about that for this entire episode, but I won't.
Thank you, Chris. We see have some people in chat talking about Origins. So Origins, folks, happening later this week. Safe travels to everyone getting out there. I wish I was going to go, but other plans. Ray, I believe you're going, right?
I am going. I'm very excited. I see lots of folks in chat saying they're going to be there. So come find me. I'm going to be untethered. I'm going to be just wandering around, kind of like when I saw y'all at PAX U. I'm going to be doing a similar thing. We're not going to have a formal op booth at Origins, but I'm going to be there with a bag full of upcoming games, lots of which will not have been either announced yet or haven't been released yet. That'll be Gen Con releases that I'll be just, walking the floor looking to just demo with the two designers of Gnome Hollow and Stock Exchange, which are our two big Gen Con releases. Those guys are both going to be there, so I'm going to be hanging out with them, demoing some of their games and filming some content.
Nice.
But yeah, so if you're at Origins, come flag me down. I'm going to have all sorts of goodies on me.
So what you're telling me is all of these unreleased secret games, somebody in chat could find you, play these games with you, and then come back to the next R&R show and just really let certain other people know what those games are.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, absolutely. This
Okay,
is
perfect.
this is me not telling you about the unreleased games, is me punishing you for not coming to Origins to hang out with me, because that's what I
honestly
really wanted.
The punishment befits the crime. That's true. it's completely, you're right. When you're right, you're right.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, no, I'm really excited. We got a super stacked Gen Con lineup and like post Gen Con releases. So I'm just really excited. It's gonna be so nice to have that one like chill show before Gen Con gnarliness. If you are coming to Gen Con, do swing by the op booth. We're gonna have some wild stuff going on, so it's gonna be nice to have a chill show before all that happens.
Folks, go find Ray at Origins. If not, then we'll see Ray at Gen Con. I'm planning on going to Gen Con. Before we went live here, I was talking to Ray about, I need to start planning I am so far behind. It's ridiculous.
You've been talking about that for the last 3 weeks.
Right, haven't I, Chris?
Like, I got to start planning. I'm like, you can keep saying it until you do.
I know. It's like midway through June now. The show's in a month and a half. It's ridiculous, folks. How about this? My goal is by the next R&R show, I will have my plans set for Gen Con. If not,
there we go.
Yeah, y'all hold my feet to the fire and get it done.
Ray, breaking news, we're going to have a special R&R episode tomorrow.
Oh! Talking about Ruel not getting his plans together.
Don't do that to me. That's not funny.
Totally not funny. Ray, you'd mentioned something during when Chris was asking you to name all the games that are coming out. You mentioned Blank Slate something. What was that?
Oh, I did mention something.
Can you talk about it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
That was a scary long pause for me.
Don't go back and scrutinize that list. I said I'm over here looking at the announcement calendar. I'm like, I think I wasn't supposed to say a couple of those. It was fine. But yes, I did mention Blank Slate Challenge, which we announced recently. This will be releasing before Gen Con. So it's not a Gen Con release. It's like in between Origins and Gen Con. I'm really excited about this. This is like a variant of Blank Slate, right? So Blank Slate is traditionally like a big group word association game. Blank Slate Challenge turns that into either a 2-player game, just cooperative 2-player game, or a team-based version of it, where instead of just trying to match with anyone at the table, you're trying to match with specific people. So this is a pretty like no-brainer continuation of Blank Slate. People were already kind of doing that with Blank Slate, so we wanted to make a nice like cheap little small box version of it that officially introduces those rules, because we already have seen people like couples on social media playing as a co-op game, or people wanting it to be a little bit more competitive and playing in teams. So that's what Blank Slate Challenge does. And I'm really excited. This was the first op game I ever played, Blank Slate. My family still is obsessed with it. It's so good at like big family gatherings. So I'm excited for it. It should be a nice release.
Awesome. That's so exciting. Blank Slate was a huge hit with my family. And once I heard you say those 2 words, like, oh, is there something new? And that actually sounds really neat. The co-op 2-player game. Michelle and I haven't played it 2 players, obviously. We've only done big groups.
Yeah,
so
it's fun 2-player.
cool.
I really like that team competitive version, because you're on teams and you're trying to match with your teammates. So it takes that thing that you already kind of do in Blank Slate, which is you're kind of on the same wavelength as one other person, and turns that into a formal competitive format, which I think is super fun.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, folks, we've got a show today. We're doing the top 12 must-have games, and we're going to start a little earlier this time because Richard,
It's always good to do. It's entirely my fault that it goes
too long. Definitely your fault. Definitely not Richard's fault.
No, it really was my fault last time. I talked for hours
about
awesome. my friggin' Trudbong little stories that I wrote.
Great.
And I'm like, I can't make fun of Richard anymore, but I crossed my fingers, so I'm gonna.
Nice. Hey, Penelope Gaming is just rated with a party of 83. Thank you, Penelope Gaming. Welcome to the party. Thank you for hanging out with us today. This is the R&R Show. This is the pre-show, actually. And what we're going to do is record a top 12 list of the must-have games. And welcome on in. Let us know what you're up to. Appreciate it. Hello from France. And there is the official greeting from our friend Chris.
It's a celebration.
It is a celebration. Yes.
And if you just joined from the raid, tell us your 3 must-have games. So that's what we're, as Rolla said, that's what we're about to talk about. And I love to know chat's answers to these. So pop those in chat and we can discuss them after the filming.
Yes.
Because I want everyone else to experience the pain and torment that I experienced trying to come up with 3 must-have games. I'll talk about it more when we actually start the show, but this list was murder on me. So everyone in chat, only 3. Gborn, only 3. That's all they give you.
Exactly.
That's all you get.
Yes.
Give you your top 3.
That is
top 3 must-have games.
That was the tough
Repo
thing.
Man comes to your house. He steals every game but 3. What are the 3 you most want to keep? That's the question.
Yes. Welcome on in again, everyone from Penelope Gaming. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? That's all you're going to get for French. For me, that's pretty much all I know.
C'est très bien, Roel.
Oh, yeah, très bien. That's all I know. What else can I say in French? Well, I don't want to insult it or offend anyone, so that's all I can say in French, folks.
Moi, je vais parler en français pour tout l'épisode. Mais ma français, mon français, je sais pas, est-ce que c'est masculin ou féminin? Je sais pas. Mais mon français, c'est si mal, je ne pratique pas comme... Moi, j'ai pris français comme en première année jusqu'au 12e année, mais c'est un long temps since j'étais en 12e année.
Wow. That was awesome, Chris. We should totally have like 2 audio tracks on this.
6 mal.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. I've seen some comments in chat regarding the top 3 games. I see a few here that we may or may not talk about, folks. We've got a few of these, I think, on the list. So
and we saw some people asking, how do we define must-have games? We will discuss that probably during the actual recording.
Yes.
So we
will do
get that in the formal video. But yes, that's a great question. we will chat about that in a second.
Yes. Before we get going, why don't we do a little battle royale? So if you subscribe to the channel, folks, you get a little avatar down below here, and every now and then, or actually before every show, we have a little battle royale where people duke it out for little geek points or whatever they're called, and you can use those points to upgrade your avatars and add all kinds of cool things. So here we go. Good luck, everybody.
And shout out to Zayatur, who subscribed with Prime earlier. I don't know if we shouted you out as much as we should have. Thank you for subscribing with Prime.
Thank you.
Free if you have Prime, and you might as well, because it means that Jeff Bezos loses money. That's what it means. You are saving the world. You're saving the income inequality one penny at a time.
Pennies at a time. Chris, I was very impressed by your French, by the way. Are you?
What I said was I
caught a little
French
bit
isn't
of
that great. I haven't practiced in a while. I took French from first grade 1. I almost said first year because première année, but from grade 1 to grade 12.
Okay.
And then because I was in French immersion from grade 1 to grade 12, and then I haven't really kept up with it, and I know that I've lost so much, but I can still stumble through a conversation.
It sounded great to me. I took French in college, and obviously it didn't stick, unfortunately. So, yeah. Who do we got winning here? Who's left here? We got a couple of people. No, it's not Richard, is it? Oh, Feldfan.
Let's go, Feldfan.
Come on, Feldfan. If Richard wins, we're going to rerun it, folks. There's no way Richard should win. It's his channel, and he just won. What?
Rigged.
Totally rigged.
Let's give it to Feldfan. It's a moral victory, and Zayatur, who I don't think was in it, is a moral victory as well.
Oh,
it's a tie. So I have thus decreed.
Yes.
I'm going to bang my little gavel.
Mm-hmm.
Ding, ding, ding. Judge Chris has spoken, folks. So in that case, Feldfan, you are the moral victory today. So congratulations.
Hey.
I've pulled your dead, just destroyed body and stitched it together and thrown it on the podium and stabbed Rahdo Runs Through in the eye.
And what roll number would that have been? Would that have been like an 8 or a 9?
That's probably.
I think it's like an 18.
Yeah,
on a 20.
I feel very accomplished.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's pretty high in my book. Okay, why don't we get going to the show? I took a sneak peek at Richard's comments or videos, and they were like 5 minutes long each, so we got a little ways to go. So feel free to take your time, friends. And let me turn this off. Let me check this screen just to make sure we're good to go. That's good.
We got lots of good. I want to say we got lots of good top 3s.
Oh yeah, let's talk about those a little bit while I check stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, we got Dominion, Azul, Grand Austria Hotel.
Oh, great pick.
Lots of people saying Castles of Burgundy, which I find interesting. I like Castles of Burgundy a lot.
That's just because they spent too much on the big special edition, and they feel then they want to make sure that they don't go bankrupt for no reason.
That is the most cynical way to look at that. Sure, yes. Concordia, yeah, we got lots of really good classic Euro games people are picking.
Okay, cool. Right on. Okay.
I was looking back at the other list because we did Desert Island, and I think we did 15. So I had 5. I put a game I hadn't even played on there, which I still haven't played. Iridia.
You still haven't played?
Oh, you still haven't played that one, Chris?
Well, it hasn't arrived. But it'll arrive in September. I'm so excited. Yeah, on a Desert Island, I wanted a campaign, easy peasy. And then I was like, I should really go back and check because Everdell absolutely would have been on the list this time. And I can't put it on because I already put it on.
Oh, are you not allowing duplicates?
No, because I already did it, right?
Yeah, same here.
So for me, it was it's a little bit different. But it was funny that I came to the same conclusions, and then I went back and I was like, oh, dang it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of validating though. They didn't avoid you pick the same ones again.
Yeah, exactly right. We got a really
interesting list with Heat, Robot Quest Arena, and Moonrakers. That's a very diverse.
Moonrakers is so good. I don't feel like that game is talked enough about. I really enjoy Moonrakers.
Yeah,
Brian Ashman's
We talked about it
In Deck
during
Builders.
our
Oh,
deck builders.
did we?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That
right.
was my deck builder
Oh,
pick.
deck builder with a board or deck builder with an additional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deck
Okay.
builder with an
The
additional
board
thing.
is the board you talk together.
Yes.
Yes.
As the saying
board
goes.
we talked about along the way. Exactly.
I see Brian Ashman's picks Codenames, Welcome to the Moon, and Wingspan. Yeah, with all 3 classic games. Very
Solid.
nice
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah.
Solid. Okay. Let's get going here. We got the top 12 must-have games. Ray, Chris, how do we feel? We good to go?
We're ready to go.
All right, let's,
Sure.
folks. Folks watching, if someone raids, let them know what we're doing. We are going to be getting through this list, and then we're going to hang out afterwards and do the post show where we're going to talk about the games that didn't actually make our list, but and Richard will join in as well. So here we go. Let me go to this screen. And let me sure my mic works. Okay, this is good. All right, here we go. Oh, what are we doing? Top 12 must-have games. Totally. What is this called? It's the R&R Show. Okay, that's right. Hey everybody, welcome to the R&R Show. This is episode 93, and come on in, Ray and Chris. How the heck are you, friends?
Fantastic.
All right.
Well, happy to be back. How are you?
It's been a while since Ray's been here. Actually, just one episode. But feels like so much longer though, Ray. And
It does feel like a long time.
yeah, and Chris is super excited. He's
I'm very excited. I'm celebrating.
Yes, the official celebration.
Mhm.
And we've got a great list today, folks. This is our top 12 must-have games. And if you don't know already, please click the links below for our extended edition, where we talk about more games that didn't make the list. And we do a bunch of fun little shenanigans before and after the show. So be sure to click that link and join us there. Now,
those games that we talk about in there are even mustier.
yes.
These are just must-have.
These are must-haves.
Oh,
We have mustier games.
no. Needed that.
Spoken like a man with a twirly mustache there.
You know what, Ruel? Yes,
Right?
exactly. Spoken like a man with a twirly mustache.
Yeah.
I've decided
Call
to
him out for
embrace
that.
my villain era.
Yes.
That's it. Welcome. Welcome. I've turned heel, and I'm just going to go for it.
Totally. Yeah, 100% heel. Now, this is a list that's been on the R&R channel show before. And you can find it on the YouTube channel as well. We've done this list several times, and we wanted to do it again because we wanted to include Ray and find out her must-have games. But why don't we talk a little bit, Chris, about how we approached it this time? How did we come up with the games that made this list?
Well, Ray, why don't you talk about it first?
Oh, yeah.
Just to
Good
put
call.
since you're the newest, what was
Yeah.
the
The new one to
agony
this-
that you had
this
to
saga.
go through?
Agony. yes.
This list was murder for me. I hated every second of
Because
coming
you
up
don't
with
cull.
this
You don't
stupid
cull at all.
list.
So just whittling this down to must
It
have
was
is
awful. It
Yeah.
was awful. I just need everyone to know that I personally had a really bad time working on this list. I just need everyone to know that. But so I went back, I watched all the previous iterations of this list, and I kind of felt like the through line that made the most sense for me, because like top 3 favorite games, I feel like that's kind of a different list. Desert Island, you get into logistics too much. There's a lot to that made me stressed out.
Yeah.
And then it was like must 3, and then it came down to top 3 must have, good God, games for anybody or for me. And I decided, we kind of discussed this as a group a little bit, and we landed on like the top 3 games that you need to have in your collection, as in me, myself. Because
more
it's a
exciting
very
that way.
different list of what I would pick for myself versus like, if you're starting out in board games, here are the 3 must-have games. I think that's kind of a different list. So the way I approach it is, if the Repo Man breaks into my house tomorrow and he takes all of my games except 3, what would be the 3 I'd be the happiest to have survived? I don't know, the great Repo Man
Repo.
break-in of 24.
I really like that it's the Repo Man. You're telling us a lot about your fears of someone repossessing all of your stuff.
I play a lot of The Sims, and that's what happens
It's
if
a
you don't
Repo
pay your
Man.
bills. The Repo Man breaks in and steals your stuff. That's what I learned as a kid, and I have yet to learn anything to the contrary. So,
Okay. Well,
so that's how I define my list. So
That's
it
great
is
to
very personal and subjective to me. The 3 games that, if you were to take all my games away, I'd want to keep these 3 games. That is what I went with.
nice.
That's
Now-
a good one.
Yeah, I approached it a similar way, Ray, where these are the games that if someone, either the Board Game Repo Man or whoever, would come in and take away my games, these are the 3 that I would want that I feel like are the must-haves. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, for me, yeah, because we kind of went more on the desert island route in the previous list, and so I wanted to deviate from that as well. And I just wanted to think about games that I must have, like games that I really must have in my collection. And going through the collection, I was pretty, and I also like left out my favorite games. You know what I mean? Like Rising Sun isn't on this list because like it's Rising Sun's too obvious. It's always there. But I wanted to think about games that like I would be really sad if I looked at my shelf and they weren't there. You know, so not necessarily worrying about balance. Like last time, I really worried about balance and having like a nice range of this is the only collection. I can't get more games ever. I only have these games, right? Which I think is what Desert Island also implies. Like you cannot acquire more. In this, I was like, no, these are games that like I just would be sad to not be able to play. Like my first one that we're going to talk about, because I'm starting off the list with number 12, is one I haven't played in a very long time. And I might as well just jump into it since I think I'm the last person describing her stuff. But even still, I would be very sad to not have it. And that is Spirit Island. Spirit Island, I probably haven't played in a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Like it's been a very long time since I played Spirit Island, and it could just be that I'm getting the itch to play this. But it is one of those games that like I really, really enjoy having on my shelf. It always feels like a possibility, and then I think, oh no, I don't have the time for this. But like it always is something that like brings me joy to look at, and it always brings me joy to think about the depths of the systems involved in it. Like Spirit Island is one of those games. It's in the top. It's probably 11 on Board Game Geek right now. And it's one that I think is so wholly deserved to be there because of like the way the systems intertwined. And I also haven't played this game at its actual difficulty. I've always go so much time in between playing it that I don't play with the invaders, and then I always win very easily. And it feels like it is a sort of predetermined outcome that the win will happen. Because I think like you need the invaders to maybe up level the difficulty. But even still, even with that predetermined outcome, I think this really says to how enjoyable it is to engage with these mechanics and to engage with the asymmetry, because I really like tough punishing co-op games. And I still would always go back to the well of Spirit Island, even though I've only played it on easy mode and just like really enjoy the journey of playing it, which is I think pretty significant for me, since usually I like co-ops that are a lot more like cutthroat or punishing. And I hear that Spirit Island gets to be that when you add in the stuff that you're supposed to add. I just haven't done it because I always take so long in playing it. And so it's a weird thing to put in that like it's not one that I always reach for. It's not one that I've even played in a very long time, but it is one that like I am consistently actively excited to play, regardless of if I have played it. And so it's a weird dichotomy there, but I just was thinking about it and scrolling through the list. I was like, you know what? I could get rid of a lot of these, but I would be sad if I didn't have Spirit Island. So that's why it makes the list.
Great choice. I haven't played this in a while either, Chris, and I'm in the same boat where I'm not getting rid of it. It's staying on my shelves because it's so good. And, you mentioned all the intertwining systems, and I feel like I have a few of these type of games on my shelves where I won't get rid of them because I love them so much, but, I'm never going to be playing at the most difficult setting because I need to relearn the game every single time. And it's like, it's like that whole like, well, I love it so much, but I feel like I haven't fully experienced the game yet, or because I haven't gotten into that highest level. And I left off I've left off my all-time favorite game, Twilight Imperium, and because it's one of those games where first of all, it takes like all freaking day to play, but also it's one of those games where I need to relearn it every time. I mean, I have the basics, right? I know how the turn structures work. And
yeah, but there's so much little minutia in there.
Exactly. The minutia is like, and that's why I feel like Spirit Island is a great choice, because it's a fantastic game through and through. It's brilliant. And I think it's a great call and such a fantastic game. So number 12.
So robust.
It is robust. And now the Invaders, that is. I thought that was part of the base game. I didn't know that
it is part of the base
It
game,
is.
but you can leave it out.
you can
Like,
leave it out.
I think
Okay.
in the rule book, it's like, oh, don't play with the Invaders first, and so like I just didn't, and then I
Okay.
was always like playing it with somebody new. Like so, I
Mhm.
played this a bunch of times, but every time it's usually with somebody new, and I don't really play solo, so
Yeah.
Right.
it's always like introducing somebody, or it's been enough time in between that I'm
Mhm.
like, nah, we'll just leave it out.
Got it. Yeah.
I don't know. I this is a game that's always made me feel crazy. Because
'Cause you don't like it?
I wanted to like this game so much. I
Oh,
mean, to start
yeah.
out, I'm not a big co-op person, so it was not
Right.
Mhm.
it was an uphill battle for me personally. I actually had the total opposite experience. I found it to be too punishing. I guess I never played the easy mode I never learned about, but I found it to be just kind of an endless game of whack-a-mole that made me very anxious.
Oh,
I
yeah.
definitely get the accolades and why it has them, but for me personally, this game just never quite hit for me. But again, it's a longer co-op game, which is usually not a style that
Right.
I
Yeah.
enjoy. Apparently, there's a I don't remember what it's called, but there's like a Jaws of the Lion-esque, like a smaller,
Yes.
Horizons.
simpler
Horizons.
version of this
Spirit
that
Island.
everyone has. Yes, people
Yes.
said I should try that because my issues with the original Spirit Island, people say that version will like
Mhm.
quell some of those issues that I had with it.
That I'm so glad you brought that up, Ray, because I think that's a great point about these type of games where, it is a longer co-op game, as you mentioned, and having that Horizons experience, I think that's the one that people should give it a shot. Like, I mean, just to
Yeah.
get, so you can play the game and really understand a good chunk of it without having to commit for, a couple of hours to something, right?
Right. So I'm
Well-
looking to get that at some
Nice.
point.
Well, Ray, that's why you work at the op and not the co-op.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, folks, for more
That's John Tripp's joke.
for more witticisms like this, please check out the links below for the extended edition. Chris does another one that really gets me, just like it got me right now.
That is true. That is true.
Brilliant, Chris. Great choice for number 12, Spirit Island. Let's move right along to our combined list here. We're going to number 11. This is my choice, and this one's going to come as no surprise to anyone. And I seriously thought about not talking about this game because I've talked about it before on the channel, but darn it, it's a must-have game in my book. It is Baseball Highlights 2045, one of the ultimate deck builders. It is a sports-themed game that non-sports fans will enjoy. And I know this for a fact because my buddy Daryl, and I've talked about Daryl before, he doesn't like baseball. He loves Baseball Highlights 2045. I will play this game every day of the week, plus twice on Sunday, folks. It is so good. You are managing a baseball team, and just like in baseball, you're trying to win the World Series. You're going to play 4 mini games. The mini games only consist of 6 cards. You can bang out a mini game in like 10 minutes, but then it's a best of 7 series, and whoever wins is the world champion, etc., etc. What makes this game so good for me is the gameplay is really sharp. You have your deck of cards, which is your team, and you play one of them out of your hand, and say, for instance, hey, my player's going to hit a single. And then your opponent is going to play a card that may say, hey, if your opponent plays a single, he's automatically out, or whatever. So it's a lot of like back and forth. It's almost like a dueling, battling game, but in a baseball theme. So yes, they'll teach you how to play the basic rules of baseball, but the deck building in this game is fantastic. It's a lot of hand management as well, trying to figure out what free agents you want to add to your deck, which are the more powerful cards, of course. Just like any good deck builder, you're going to level up your deck. You'll have those to play, and then as you move along in the game, you're going to see how powerful your deck is, but at the same time, your opponent is also leveling up. So you've got that battling, hey, I'm really strong now, but so are you. What will it come down to win? I love everything about this game. I think it's Mike Fitzgerald's masterpiece, and it's probably the best sports themed game I've ever played because it stays true to the game. He's actually done one for football Highlights 2052. It really fell flat with me. It didn't have the streamlined gameplay of Baseball Highlights, and he's done one for basketball apparently that's sort of flown under the radar. And I haven't played it yet, but I've heard that one's really good, so I want to check that out. But for the purpose of this list, must-have games, folks, Baseball Highlights 2045. please, if you haven't already, go pick up a copy and play it, or find someone to play it. It's wonderful.
I still
I
haven't
love
played
how
it.
much you love this game.
Yeah.
I think I said that last time. I said I just love. I
Yeah.
love how much you love this game,
I
and I would love to play it with you sometime.
you know, maybe at Gen Con, if we can sneak
Yeah.
away for like 20 minutes, we can play a couple of innings. It's so good. I think what really puts it over the top for me is, obviously I'm a baseball fan, but just that the gameplay, if you strip away the theme, it really is sort of like a dueling card game, where like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and then you may have the exact card that like negates that, and then if you play that one, then I may have a card that negates your negation, and it's a lot of back and forth like that, which I think is really neat. And of course, with the baseball theme, it's automatic for me. So I love this game. I always love it. There's a bunch of expansions. They just did a new Kickstarter with another expansion. So check that out, folks. That's our number 11 Baseball Highlights 2045. Okay. Enough baseball talk. Let's go to Ray.
I never thought I would hear the day Ruel said that. Somebody clip that. Somebody clip that and send it to Ruel every one of his podcasts. Every time he starts talking about the Dodgers, you just send it, just post it in chat. That's it.
Please do that, folks. Please do that. Ray, let's get away from the baseball talk with number 10 on the list.
Time for some spooky occult talk. My number 10. I want to start by saying, before I even talk about what my number 10 is, I had a total existential breakdown with this list in general, but specifically with this pick. I just really want to harp on how bad of a time I had. So the first thing I did when this list was pitched was I wrote down code names. That was like the first thing I did. I was like, oh, duh, code names. I love code names. It is my go-to like entry game for people. And then I sat. And the longer I like sat and thought about it, the less right that pick kind of felt for me. And if it was a list for anybody, like if we were doing this, you know, what's your top 10 starter games or whatever, it probably still would have been Codenames. But for me at this point in my life, I mean, I still think I put Codenames as my top party game when we did that list. But if we're talking about I can only have 3 games, I've played a lot of Codenames. I worked for Czech Games Edition for 2 years and probably played more Codenames than anybody needs to in their entire life. And so I sat there, I don't know, I had a drink, I stared at the wall, I called my therapist, and I finally decided it was okay to leave Codenames off this list. I decided, you know what, actually, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. So I swapped in my favorite Codenames killer that I think still has more interest and excitement for me right now than Codenames, because I've played so much Codenames, and that is Phantom Inc. This is my favorite game when people say they love Codenames, and I go, well, have you tried this other game? So Phantom Inc. is a team-based word deduction game. Each team is going to have a spirit who is aware of a secret word. And the important thing here is both spirits on both teams have the same secret word. And then they each have a team of mediums who are trying to figure out that word that the spirits know. And to do that on their turn, when it's your team's turn, you and your other fellow mediums are going to pick one of the pre-written question cards that come with the game. And these range from really normal, like, you know, could this thing catch on fire? Or, you know, is this thing bigger than a house or whatever? To really weird things like, what if this thing were a movie, what movie would it be? There's a really fun range of pre-written questions that you ask your spirit, and then your spirit goes to physically write down the answer on a public pad of paper that both teams can see. So the team whose turn it is, they know the question that they've asked their spirit. The other team doesn't know the question, but they get to see the public writing of the answer. Once the mediums who ask the question think they know what the spirit is writing. So if the word was boat or something, and they said, if it were a movie, what movie would it be? And they start to write down like Titanic or something. If the mediums think they know that, oh, that's got to be Titanic, there's only so many words that start with those first 4 letters, they say silencio, and the spirit stops writing. So you're left with half a word on, like, so you're going to do this over and over again on each side. Nice. And so you have half the sheet of paper, you know the question, and you hopefully know the word. And then the other half, again, it's the questions for the same word, but you only get half a clue. But depending on the types of clues that you're writing down, it can help you narrow down. It's just a really fun deduction puzzle. It's unlike anything else I've seen from a word deduction game. That's one of my favorite genres, is party word games. I find this more approachable than Decrypto, and at this point in my life, more interesting than Codenames. And the other reason I wanted to put this on this list is they currently have a Kickstarter going for a standalone expansion that adds like a bajillion new cards and questions. That was the one thing that kind of tends to keep this off my list for me. So I'm like, oh, well, I've played this a bunch. I kind of know all the questions. They're adding in like 100 new fun, weird questions that I think will give this game a lot of replayability. I did try to think about replayability for this list. Like, if these are my only 3 games, could I play these for a long time and be happy? And with that new Arcana expansion on Kickstarter, I haven't played it yet, but it looks like it's going to be more of something I already really enjoy. So yeah, that's Phantom Inc.
I'm looking at the Kickstarter right now, and apparently you can also get 2 disappearing ink pens.
Yeah, so you can reuse the same pad over and over again.
Yeah, I was
Nice.
hoping that it would just fade out for the teams, and you would have like
remember it.
and you have to like remember things as like
That'd
they
be
were
pretty
because
cool.
the shifting of memories. But it seems like
pretty
it's
cool.
just more like a reusable like consideration rather than that.
Someone should do that though. Someone run with that idea of like a memory-based disappearing ink situation. That could be cool.
Right, as it shifts away. You could do it with cards, like I guess letter cards, and then you can flip them over slowly, like
Nice.
as time goes on, like if you had a timer going.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm glad you put this one on the list, Ray. It's different, right? I feel like it's almost Codenames, like next level Codenames or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's like, Codenames Plus, for as it will, right? And
Totally.
yeah, and I again, these type of games aren't totally my jam, but I know that Codenames and this and Decrypto, I've always had fun playing these type of games, and I really want to dive deep on the expansion because there's a bunch of stuff there. I was looking at the Kickstarter as well. There's a bunch of stuff there that looks really cool, and as you talk about it, the replayability will increase tenfold, if not 100-fold. With that,
for sure.
Okay,
Nice.
we got our first couple of picks down. Let's go to Richard, who's got our number 9. Richard, take it away now.
All right, I gotta say, this is a great start. Chris, nice choice. Spirit Island, one of the coolest, most innovative, and I think important cooperative games of all time. Not only for its subject matter, but for the way it redefines the core ideas of cooperative play. Everybody simultaneously figuring out the round structure as you go is so brilliant. It is, and just even the base box has so much gameplay in there. You will get a lifetime worth of fun out of that box. Excellent choice. Ruel, I can't blame you. Of course you're going to put baseball highlights on the list. You love baseball so much. And I have to say, I have actually played this game. And I thought it was a very, very smart design. Not enough to make me dig it because I just don't care about baseball. But I definitely enjoyed my brief time with it. And Ray, this is why I love having you on the list. I mean, you are coming up with stuff that never even occurred to me. I've heard about Phantom Inc. I know very little about it. So I cannot wait to hear your explanation of why it is a must-have. But now, let's move on to our number 9 on the list. And I gotta say, folks, this was hard. This is actually the 4th time that I have done a must-have desert island scenario style list on the channel. I did one back, I think, long time ago. What was it? In 2015, and then I did an update in 2020, and then I did another one in 2023 with Chris and Ruel. And every time I've always tried to put new games on the list rather than just repeating myself, because I think all of these lists stand. But it's never been harder than this because we're splitting a 12. That means I've only got 3. So effectively, what are my 3 desert island games? If I couldn't own any other games, couldn't play any other games, which is the way I approach this. Maybe you did it differently. I don't know. My other rule is I say I can't have expansions, because if I have expansions, then this gets much easier. I'll just pick the game that has the most content, right? So with my desert island games without expansion, and I can only have 3 of them, that means each one of these games has to do double duty. It has to tick multiple boxes to make it on this list. And after much consideration, I am prepared to announce our group number 9 for the list is Marrakesh. And this is one of designer Steffenfeld's newest, most recent games. And Stefan Feld, of course, is my favorite board game designer of all time. And there are two things that Marrakesh does that put this on the list. One, I had to have a game that is big and crunchy and deep and complex and, you know, provides just endless replayability just with what comes in the core box. And Marrakesh ticks that box for me. This is like over a half dozen games glommed into one board, all held together by the Keshi Tower, which, is the other big thing this does. It provides some really fun, novel thing. Not for me. I love the Keshi Tower, don't get me wrong, once it works. Actually, when I originally did my run-through for Marrakesh, I actually said it was my most disappointing game of the year because my copy of the game had a cube tower that just fundamentally did not hold on to cubes, or Keshis they're called, at all, and it was hugely disappointing. But eventually, when I got my Essential Edition later on, and then that tower worked great, I was like, yes. But anyway, what's so big about the tower? It's my wife. I knew of these three games that I'm going to put on this list. One of them had to be for her. And at this point, I would say Marrakesh is Jen's favorite of all the Feld games. And we have played every single one of them in history and love them all to pieces in different ways, or almost all of them, not all of them. But anyway, Jen adores this game on such a deep level because it is so deep and rich and allows you to pursue radically different things every time you play. And with a functioning cube tower, it is endlessly surprising and engaging. And it's absolutely phenomenal. One of Feld's all-time best. I know others have said it is literally Feld's best design of all time. It's my wife's favorite. I dig it too. It's number 9 on our combined list. The Great, Great Marrakesh. Okay, back to you, gang.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Yes, of course, a Stefan Feld game was going to be on this list. Much like, yes, you were going to have baseball highlights on the list, you are definitely going to have a Feld game. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the previous episodes where we did this list, check it out here on the channel because Richard has another Feld game that was near and dear to my heart. But Marrakesh, I haven't played it yet, so I'm not familiar with it. I am familiar with Feld's games. I do like them. Not all of them hit with me, but Marrakesh I'd like to give a shot because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
I just want to congratulate Richard on his nuptials with the Tower of Marrakesh. I think we all
really
heard
beautiful.
it here. It's really a beautiful moment that he felt comfortable sharing with all of us. You know what's great about this tower? It's my wife.
My wife.
And so I don't know how.
That is
I don't
literally
know.
what he said.
So I just want to really heartfelt congratulations to Richard. So happy for you two. Jen, I'm sorry if something's happened or if you've turned into a tower of Marrakesh.
Oh, no.
I think there are two options here. But that's what I got from that Mick.
Incredible.
Oh my goodness, I love the show, folks. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Chris, for the insight. Let's move along. And Chris, you are going to bring us our next game, number 8 on the list.
My next game, which I have brought with me.
Oh.
My next game, it is in my hand, just off frame. It is a game that I have fallen in love with, absolutely fallen in love with. I first heard about it because it is in the World Series of Board Gaming lineup, and I'm so happy it was in there. I'm so happy that I'm involved in that. Specifically for this game, it is Raw. 25th Century has done such an incredible job with this edition. That's not the 25th Century one that you see up above, but it is the an older game for Raw. It feels like so many people are talking about Raw lately too. There's Shut Up and Sit Down was talking about Raw recently. No Pun Included was talking about Raw, and more importantly, the R&R Show is talking about Raw. The most important, it is just it's blown me away in terms of how much of a masterpiece this is. And I was going back through the 2023 footage of WSBG and kind of clipping and trying to do a highlights reel. So I started off with Raw, and I was just so enraptured by the strategic choices that are there. It is such an awesome balance of when to push or when to call, right? Like when to push people in, when to call the bid, like when to push your luck a little bit more. Can you go on a run of drawing tiles? Will somebody let you go on that run, or will they force you to call raw? And then will you hold out taking those pieces or not? It's like an incredibly dynamic game that just has hit so well with me. And it is one of those things that like I am so surprised by how much I continue to enjoy this game, and it's one that I would be very, very sad if I did not have on my shelf. I think the 25th Century Edition is such a gorgeous production. Like, it really shows you what you can do with revamping a title, like what a great like new art direction can do, and can revitalize, and how they can make it so user friendly as well, with like the player boards that have all the scoring conditions on them. It's really, really good. I highly recommend, and both the retail or the deluxe editions are good choices. I feel
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like I think it might even be coming back for another Kickstarter, and I don't know if I'm gonna just get the deluxe because I like it so much.
Yeah.
But it'll depend, if it depends on the, because I've used this copy a lot because I take it with me to run any like little WSBG events too. If I'm running like a little mini tournament, I'll just take all my copies of all the games. And so like I need to do a full examination of the tiles and see like how much people's finger oils have rubbed them off. But I think retail is just like such a good value, and the tiles are so thick and satisfying. And as an auction game, it is phenomenal. And so yeah, Raw had to be on the list. It had to be.
Yeah.
And it's clear that it made the cut for my travels. That the only reason that Spirit Island isn't with me is, one, for time, and two, because a friend is borrowing it. They're not keeping it. Sometimes I let friends borrow games, and then I'm like,
man's not the board game repo man in disguise. Are you sure? How well do you know this friend?
I hope
Is
not.
he gonna bring
Cassie,
it back?
Cassie, please, no! They're breaking in right now. They're breaking. Oh God! Well, keep tightly tucked under my pillow. Yeah, I'm very happy and very excited to play it. That's our number 8.
Great call. There was no way there was not going to be a Knizia on the list, of course. And this is, like you said, it's a masterpiece. And for the longest time, I thought the best auction game was actually a game called QE. I felt like that was like the best pure auction game. But the more, it's a great game. But the one I'd rather play is Raw. It adds that bit of set collection, push your luck element to it. It's so good. I'm so glad that you picked it, Chris. You know how much we are fellow Dr. K fans, as we call it. And I'm sort of bummed the video. Yeah, this is an older version, but what's great about this game is no matter what version you have, the gameplay is so strong, and it's been around for 20 years. It's not going anywhere. So no matter what version you play, you're gonna have a wonderful time with it. So good.
Yeah, it's one of those games that like I really do think that like my exposure to it in the World Series has really helped it skyrocket because I've seen its potential, right? Like when you watch really good players play a game and you see the moves that they're making, and you're like, oh, this, like, you understand the game so much more than if you're just learning it and everybody's learning it for the first time, right? And making those discoveries. And I like making those discoveries. I definitely had some of those discoveries as like a friend of mine glommed onto it and just started hammering Raw, and I was like, you're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to wait for me to fill up the entire row and then take it with my highest number. What are you doing? But just seeing like the dynamic of strategy with such a simple rule set is phenomenal. Mind-blowing to me. So.
I love that it seems like a little thing, but just the way you bid, there's only a limited amount of numbers that you can bid with. And when you bid, it goes like to the open market, so to speak, right? And you lose that, but it goes, someone else can pick that up. I love that. Rather than, QE, we're just talking about, that goes the totally opposite way. You can bid whatever the heck you want, right? But this gives you that really tight, narrow, like, this is what you bid in this game and in this round. And oh, it's so good. I want to play it now. Now, I should ask this. And I'm wondering how if Rich, I'm sure he'll talk about, but I have not played this at 2-player. Have you, Chris? And does it work?
Yeah, it's okay. It's
Okay.
not the best. It's better
Yeah.
with more people.
Yeah.
2-player, it's not as great as it could be, but it's
Right.
fine. Like it's okay if you really wanted to play it at 2-player, you can. But I 3 and up is what I enjoy.
Yeah. And then for the 2-player, are there any rules tweaks or anything, or is it you just play it as is?
Not really. You kind of just play it as is.
Oh, okay.
You know, you might remove some raw tiles, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But I don't even think you do that.
yeah. Cool. Okay, folks, that's our number 8. Raw, great choice, Chris. Let's move on to our number 7, which is going to be my choice. And surprise, we've got another Knizia on the list. This is my all-time favorite game from The Good Doctor. This is a game called Samurai. Now, Samurai is a tile laying game. It also has area control, which are 2 of my favorite mechanisms. And this game it's in your face. It is, but it's an abstract at its heart, right? You're just surrounding different tiles here, trying to get the different pieces and trying to get the majority in 3 different areas. So you have military, farming, and I believe religion. And those are represented by different pieces. This is the OG version that Richard has here. This is also the version that I have from Rio Grande Games. They have another Fantasy Flight version, which I have never played, but it's basically the same thing, just with different types of minis and whatnot. On your turn, you have a couple of tiles behind your screen. You're going to choose one of those and place it anywhere on the board. And then one of those, either religion, farming, or military pieces, you're going to be surrounding. When they are completely surrounded, you're going to pause right there and count up who has the most influence. They have different numbers. Whoever has the most will take it into their supply behind the screen, and rinse and repeat until all the tiles have been out, or a majority of the pieces have been taken. I think it's 2 need to be completely off the board, like say for instance religion and farming or whatever. Once those are done, you're gonna reveal how many everyone's collected, and then whoever's has the most majority of each one will win the game. I love, again, just like we were just talking about Raw, how simple the rule set is, and this is a huge feature of Knizia's games. Low rules overhead, and the strategy, the complexity comes through in the gameplay. That's what I'll always appreciate about his games, and that's why Samurai I love so much. It's the first Knizia I've ever played, and maybe that has just really, I remember it's the first time I played it, and I just had to get a copy of the game. This was years ago when I first got into the hobby. And when I finally tracked it down, it was out of print. I finally tracked it down. I was so excited, and I played it numerous times since then at all player counts. For the 2-player game, all you do is shrink the map. You just take away a couple of the islands or whatever. For a 4-player game, you just add. And it's really straightforward, but the gameplay is so good. It's tiles, tile lane, area control. That's it. It's a fantastic game. My favorite Knizia of all time. That's why it's our number 7 on the list of must-have games.
Yeah, I've only played this at 2 players, but I like the tactical element to it. A buddy of mine has a copy. I play it with him.
Yeah,
but
I've never played this game.
Oh no! Oh
no,
another one.
I don't know. I don't know if maybe if it just like you said it's an older Knizia title. Maybe I just like missed it by the time I got into the hobby.
Yeah,
but it sounds great.
Yeah, it's another one of those. Hey, this was released back in 1999, and it's gone through I think 2 different versions, and I feel like this is one that like a 25th Century may take on and deluxeify it. I would buy it in a heartbeat. It is fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. You know what I really love about this one, Ray, is, and Chris and everyone watching, is it just has that feeling of a classic game, right? Tile lane, really straightforward, but it has just enough tweaks to like make you come back. Because there's like certain tiles that give you like a special ability, and you know when that comes out, you'll be able to play that. And everyone has the exact same tiles, but because of the way you draw tiles, you're just going to draw randomly 5 and you put it in behind your screen. You're going to play one of those at a time, and so they don't all come out at the same time, right? And it's so good. I think it's one of those games that, again, it's been around for 20 years, but it's been like, I don't know, overlooked for a lot of those years, I feel, for some reason or another.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I feel like a lot of Knizia titles, it feels like they are always out of print, even though they are modern classics. And I think like Tigris and Euphrates is like in between print. I think that's just like likely due to like licensing and whatever. It drops out or it doesn't, and then it will come out with another one. So I think for those of you who are always scared. Just know they will come back. If it's a Knizia title and it's a classic, it will come back. I brought like Tigris and Euphrates with me because my buddy Pat wanted to try it, and that's currently out of print, but like it'll come back. It's beloved enough that it'll come back. Don't spend $1,000 on a used copy.
Oh my god!
Right? Yeah,
it can get insane in between printing.
Seriously, and they I think it was All Play that just re-released Through the Desert, another classic that had been out of print for a while, but sure enough, it came back. So, all right, so back to back Knizias. Let's move on to our number 6. Ray, you've got the choice.
All right, so this game that I believe I talked about previously in my top engine builders list, so I won't yap about it for too long, but I really love this game. My number 6 is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
Nice.
I feel like Terraforming Mars is just like one of those classic must-have games. I personally have discussed this on the channel before. I personally really prefer Ares Expedition to the original Terraforming Mars. I won't go into a ton of detail on Terraforming Mars because everybody knows about it. But if you don't, it's basically like a Tableau engine builder where you are trying to hit certain parameters to terraform Mars, and you're trying to be the best space capitalists that you can in the process. I love Ares Expedition because it gets rid of the area control, which I did like, but I never felt enough in the original Terraforming Mars to really justify its existence. It gets rid of the awards, and it gets rid of a couple of other things that I know a lot of people still like the OG, and that's fine. Other things that I personally would consider bloat in the original Terraforming Mars, trims it down. It adds simultaneous actions, which I adore. And yeah, this made my list for 2 primary reasons. One, it is my partner's favorite game, loves this game very, very much. And it's got an absolute bajillion amount of cards. So that replayability, which I did try to factor into this, is really present in this game. And with all the different corporations and companies that you can play as, I just find that even as much as I've played this game a ton, I still find that the experience feels different and unique every time because there's so many cards, there's so many arguably broken unique interactions with certain cards that I just find this to just be that sweet spot for me of set collection and engine building. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It plays really well with new people. And I don't have anything new to say about this game I haven't said before. I just really, really love it. I get it to the table all the time, and I have yet to get bored of it. So I'd be really upset if I couldn't have this in my collection anymore.
Great choice, Ray. I love this game as well. And this is the one where if I was going to play Terraform Mars, this is the one that's going to get to the table. And you talk about that huge deck of cards. Again, that was a feature in the original game, and they kept that for this version, which I love. You still have, there's going to be a ton of choices you can make, tons of things to do. And then the second thing you said was the simultaneous actions. Like, there's just the way the action selection, that's something new here, which is more like a Race for the Galaxy type thing. And I thought it totally improved the game. I love that about this, and it's the one I would choose to, whether new or veteran gamers. I feel like this is sort of replaced the OG Terraforming Mars. I really love this one.
Some people will be upset by that, and that's fine. You're allowed to like original Terraforming Mars.
Yep.
I just find this so much easier to get to the table. And I just vastly prefer it to the original.
Now, have you played the Crisis co-op expansion?
I have not.
That's the only one I haven't played. I played all the other little
same.
modules in it.
Yeah. The co-op has little appeal for me, so I haven't played
That's
it.
right.
Well, I just didn't know. I didn't know if that was maybe an exception because you like the game so much. If you would make that exception,
maybe I would like it. I haven't tried it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nice. Okay, great choice. Let's move on to number 5, which Richard has for us right now.
Okay, Chris, you continue to be my preferred life partner. Raw is my personal highest ranked favorite Knizia game of all time. I do think it's brilliant. And that new 25th century, 25th anniversary edition, is just gorgeous. I love it to pieces. I actually seriously considered it for my list too. It didn't make it, although folks, mentioning it now, don't forget, if you want more must-have games, remember, this is just the main R&R show. There is an extended version of the R&R show where we catch up with Ray and find out what's been going on with her. And I'm so glad, Ray, I know you're under a lot of pressure. You're able to make time for us today with some great options. But anyway, though, and the other thing in the extended edition, of course, is we will talk about more must-have games. I had 10 games. I actually had to whittle down to 3 to get on this list today. Was Raw one of them? Maybe. So you'll have to check out the extended. Links down in the show notes. Folks, you can just jump over to that extended right now. Keep watching from where we are right now. And then finish out with a bunch of extra games. But anyway, so Raw, brilliant. Well, Samurai, also a brilliant game. Wasn't a keeper for me. A bit too confrontational at the end of the day. And in all honesty, Raw, have you played Rebirth yet? Have you? It might make you rethink your love of Samurai, quite frankly. And then Ray, Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition, another one I thought long and hard about as well. As far as I'm concerned, completely obliterates the original Terraforming Mars. Combining Race for the Galaxy with Terraforming Mars becomes, greater than the sum of its parts. An excellent choice, I have to say. And now, my number 5 on our combined list. Once again, I had to try to tick 2 boxes, and I'm pretty happy. There were a bunch of games I had in my queue to fill this slot. Which one did I go with? It was Tiny Towns. And this is not the first time I've talked about Tiny Towns on the show, and I know I'm not all alone in my love for this game. But here's the 2 things Tiny Towns does. Actually, 3 maybe even. One, as a counterpoint to my previous entry, Marrakesh, big, heavy, complex, bombastic, sprawling game, I needed to have something that was rich and fun and infinitely replayable with a tiny, tiny footprint and a tiny, tiny playtime. And Tiny Towns delivers on both of those things. I absolutely adore this game. I've played it so much. And while, it's got a lot of great expansion content, just even the base game does everything I need it to do. Another thing, I really wanted to have a tile layer on the list. I love tile laying, one of my favorite mechanisms. And while this, strictly speaking, isn't a tile layer, it's kind of a tile builder. You have a 4x4 grid. Players are taking turns picking cubes to put on the grid to try to build the ideal tiles they're going for, but you have to anticipate what your opponent is going to do too and be ready for however they're going to make your tiny town expand, whether you like it or not. And it's absolutely brilliant. I could play this game 7 days to Sunday. Oh, another great thing it does, goes up to 6 players. And it's a phenomenal gateway game too. So this game serves triple duty. It does so much for me. Scratches an itch I want. Gives me and Jen a fast game to play. It's also an amazing solo game. And no matter the player count. Oh, also another thing doesn't get enough credit for. It has 2 different modes that let you play in radically different ways. One of them, if you're looking for it, can be quite cutthroat if you're playing at a lower player count and you're making moves specifically to stuff your opponent. And honestly, I enjoy that also, which I know Ray does as well. I remember her talking about this, and she was surprised because at her house, this is a knives out kind of game, and it can be at my house too, and I still find myself enjoying it. This is I think my number 31 highest ranked game of all time, and because I knew I had to have a fast, efficient, tiny footprint, high player count game that I could play with anyone, anywhere, anytime, Tiny Towns makes the list. Okay, back to y'all.
Yeah, I love Tiny Towns. This has been a mainstay in my collection, and I've played a ton. I played, I think, 1 or 2 of the expansions that adds a new currency, like the gold or whatever.
I love that. That's a good expansion.
It's terrific.
I think that's almost a necessary expansion. Yeah, it's really good.
I need to play it more. I've only played a handful of times, but I feel like, Ray, it's probably one of those I'm going to continue to add it whenever I play it. I remember the hype around this game when I went to Dice Tower West a few years ago. It just released, and people were going crazy over it. And I was like, what, really? Tiny Towns? And once I played, I realized, okay, yeah, this is such a smart game. It's almost like now Richard was talking about a tile layer. I felt like it was more like a roll and write, but in board game form, where it's bingo style, right? Everyone, hey, you get a wheat, and then everyone has to put a wheat, but you can do it different ways, right? Okay, now everyone gets a wood or whatever. So I really, really love Tiny Towns. I'm glad it's here. I know how much Richard loves this, and I love this game as well.
Yeah, no, I love this game so much. Richard is right that this game is very aggressive in my household, but that's well, I love it for that. But it's just funny every time I talk to someone about it, they're like, it's this really pleasant, relaxing spatial game. I'm like, what game are you talking about? But I love it for that. So I'm glad we're on the same page at the end of the day in that we love Tiny Towns.
Yes.
Yeah, I
different
decidedly
reasons.
dislike the version where you don't call out the tiles, like you just
Oh,
flip them up and
yeah.
they're sort of random.
Completely
That
agree.
that is a horrible way to play. You have to
Yeah.
play it where I'm like, oh, you don't need yellow? Yellow.
Hey,
Exactly.
yeah, that is so core to it for me.
Same.
Is the
Yeah.
calling out what people don't want and then learning to adapt to it. You can't be too set in your strategy in this game, and that's what I love is that it's got very simple player interaction, but it's so impactful in your overall strategies. You have to learn to adapt to what other people are sending you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And that way of flipping the cards, that's used for the solo mode as well. And I think it's fine for the solo, but yeah, when I play with one or whoever many players I play, I want to play it the original way, the way where I can pick the ones that you don't need. You know, it's so good. Richard also real quick mentioned Rebirth. Richard, I have played Rebirth. I love it. It's a Knizia game that just launched on Kickstarter. They just funded. It's fantastic. Yeah, it is so good. But I don't know. I really liked it, but I need to play it more. I feel like Samurai, at least for me, it's still the one for me. But Rebirth is fantastic. So check that one out as well, folks. Maybe next time I'll make the must-have list. We'll see. We're getting to our top 4 now. Chris, it's back to you.
Well, here's another one that I have on the shelf behind me.
All right.
It is. I talked about it today in my Monday crowdfunding countdown. For anybody who watched that on my channel, I said, "Here's the spoiler. This is the first game that went into my bag. This was the hit of the summer last summer, and I was like, I gotta bring it with me. This is a game. It's in my top 10, so I did have to put something that's in my top 10, but it's because I just adore this game so much, and it is Avalon, the best social deduction game that exists. I don't care who you are or what you say. This is the one. And we've all agreed because I'm going to keep talking so that no one can disagree. It's Avalon. You can see I'm showing a video there of the differences between the two. There's a big box and there was like the Resistance Avalon box. I still think the Resistance Avalon is probably the best way to go because you don't really need all the characters unless you are like a big fan. But like I love playing just base Avalon all the time, and it just what I love about Avalon, the number one thing that I love about Avalon is that it is a social deduction very similar to Werewolf where nobody gets eliminated, and that you have complete player agency throughout the game. Unlike Secret Hitler, or Feed the Kraken, you have actual player agency, and unlike Werewolf or Mafia, you never get eliminated, you never get voted out. You're going on these quests, and you want these quests to succeed or fail. I also see that's what Blood on the Clock Tower does well, in that the ghosts are still able to participate and have a voice, and be able to talk. But I just think Avalon, Blood on the Clock Tower is too complicated to get the majority of normies involved, let's say. And Avalon is one that just I have played so many times. I've had some of my favorite game nights with it, just a bunch of people laughing and backstabbing each other. And it's just such a solid, simple structure that even with the extra rolls, I tend to play vanilla, and I love playing vanilla. And I think that's and I didn't realize that was a theme between this and Spirit Island of the core mechanics being so sound that it's just super duper fun. I would be so sad if I never got to play Avalon again. And so it has to be a must have. It was the number one thing I had to bring. It was the thing that resonated with my cast last summer, and for sure just love it. Had to put it in.
Nice. I knew this game was going to be on the list, Chris. I know how much you love it, and having done the show with you for a while now, and knowing your love of this game, I need to play this game. It's on the top of my must play. I've never played. I've played.
Oh man,
we'll play.
Yeah,
we'll play.
I really again, deduction games aren't really my jam, but it just seems like this is the one for me at least.
We should get a bunch of people. It requires 5 to play. We should get 7.
Mm-hmm.
We should get 7 people, and we should have an R&R Avalon show.
Oh,
yes,
yeah!
I'd love that.
Let's make that happen. We could totally make that happen. Yeah.
We'll just add 4 people. We'll just need 7. That's all we need. 7's a good number for Avalon.
We could. No. What's the minimum? Is it 4 or 5?
Minimum's 5. Maximum's 10.
Okay.
7 is a good spot.
7 is a good. between 7 and 9 is like the ideal, I think, with Avalon. 10 is still good, and then it's 6, and then it's 5.
Okay.
But I've also played a bunch of 5-player games that I really enjoy.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's also going to be madness on Zoom with everybody shouting over each other. It's going to be a horrible, horrible thing to listen to. I've actually filmed two games of Avalon that I played with my friends that I wanted to put on Room and Board, and it just is like I couldn't release them because they were too nonsense.
Really?
It's hard to like. Social deduction games are really hard to translate into a video form. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love Avalon. I love social deduction games in general, and Ruel, I would love to play this with you all. I get very aggressive during these games.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's really fun to like see everyone's personality. Like everyone has.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like why some people don't like deduction games, right? It's so dependent on who you're playing with and matching play styles. But I think it'd be really fun to play with y'all. I will say. Best social deduction game? I don't know. We'll have to do a list.
Look at that.
We'll have to do a list.
You would say, we heard it here first. Clip that. Ray said, I would say best social deduction game. End quote.
End quote.
Avalon, it's been official. We don't need to add the punctuation there. Just cut it before the punctuation.
I love it. Just that one little clip. Yeah, we need to play this. I really want to give this a shot. I cannot wait.
Absolutely.
So good. Okay. Number 3, I've got it here, and this is not a social deduction game. This is one of my favorite mechanisms, if not my favorite mechanism, worker placement. And I feel this game just captures it's a perfect blend of mechanism and theme, and it's our number 3 game. It is Viticulture Essential Edition, one of my all-time favorite games, and I just feel like I said, it captures workers, the mechanism and the gameplay perfectly, because as you you're literally sending out your little workers into your vineyard, and they are doing things like gathering the grapes, stomping on those grapes, and eventually making wine and selling them to the customers. I love that. It's one of those games where, hey, it may it may not be your theme, but just like baseball, it may not be your theme, but the mechanisms just are so well done, and it's really, again, I would call it like a medium weight type game, maybe light, medium, or whatever. But just knowing how, like, hey, I just need to send my worker here to get the grapes, or I need to send my worker here to fulfill an order. It's really easy to grasp, and I always appreciate that about viticulture. Now, I shall say this. If you're a veteran gamer, if you still not played Viticulture, I would highly recommend getting this with the expansion, Tuscany, because it really levels up the game. And I don't know. I was really, when we were coming up with this list, I was sort of torn. I'm like, do I just stick with the base game, which I love? I love the base game, but when I play it, I always play it with Tuscany because it does add a couple of modules. It actually adds almost like a little area control type, the area majority thing on a little map, and it just adds more cards and whatnot. But then I thought about it. I'm like, I try not to overthink this, Ruel. It's a fantastic game, and it's been on the BGG top 100 or top 50 list for years and years, for good reason, because it plays so smoothly. And this is a game that's not only a must-have, but it's on the top of my bucket list of games I want to play at a winery. Michelle and I, we go wine tasting occasionally, and this is the one game we always say, we got to bring it here, but then we forget. We have our glass of wine. It's like, next time we'll do it. But this is a fantastic game, and that's why it's our number 3 on the combined list of must-have games, Viticulture Essential Edition.
I mean, this is a great pick. I hemmed and hawed on putting this on the list a bunch, and then I was like, I think Ruel's gonna put it on there, so it's covered. This is one of my favorite games of all time. This is like top 5 games for me. No, I love Viticulture. But moving past that, what is happening with Richard in this video? Is he doing some sort of gag with the pronunciation of Pinot? Because I keep seeing him like,
what was it? Yeah,
what was that? Because we can't hear the audio. I just kept seeing him pull over like a cue card that like spelled out P-no and like P-E-N-O.
Yeah,
I saw that too. Go back and watch this video because I'm like, what is that? The gag? Is the gag that it's P-no?
I'm curious. Like, what the heck? We're gonna have to watch that video and see what happened. That is hilarious. P-no,
it's killing me.
Like, was he saying a P-not? Maybe that's the only thing I can think of.
I don't know. It's a mystery. You'll have to go find out.
We'll have to find out. Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great pick, Ruo.
Thanks. I love this game so much. Also, just a little, like, one of those games where, you know, you have that experience, like, when you get into the hobby, and then you play some games, you're excited, and then there's just certain games that you play, at least for me, I can think of two of them, that really is like, oh my gosh, board gaming is amazing. Like, I had those experiences early. I was, oh, this is so much fun. I love modern board gaming. But when I played Blood Rage, and then when I played Viticulture, those two, mind blowing, like, oh my goodness, this is awesome, you know, and it really took me to the next level. Those two games in particular, just I have those core memories of when I got into the hobby, and it's forever embedded in me.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a good pick, but I also think I had heard that you can't play it without Tuscany. You can't play without Tuscany. I've only played it. I'd only played it with Tuscany, and then somebody was like, "Do you want to play base Viticulture?" I was like, "Man, you can't play without Tuscany." And then I played base Viticulture, and I was like, "Oh wait, this is actually really good."
Base
Yeah.
Viticulture's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But like, I feel like that so like, shout out to base Viticulture. It is a solid game that I would happily play, and like I enjoyed Tuscany as well. But I was like, I played it with. I didn't miss as much as I was expecting to miss by all the sort of fervor when people talk about it. So that's the one thing I just wanted to highlight in the Viticulture must-have edition, number 3.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I have Tuscany, and I 50-50 whether or not I play with it. Because sometimes I'm just like, I just don't I want to just play base Viticulture. I think it holds up perfectly fine without Tuscany.
Yeah.
Tuscany is great, but Tuscany would not make my list of like must-have expansions. I think base Viticulture still gives you the same core gameplay loop. It's still a very satisfying start to finish game. Those extra things are nice to have, but I wouldn't call them necessary personally.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, I play a bunch of Viticulture online on BGA Board Game Arena, and that's just base Viticulture.
And that's vanilla.
It's fun. Yeah. Cool. All right, Ray, what do we got for number 2 today?
All right, my number 2 is the Seven Wonders Duel. Again, another existential crisis of whether or not to put Duel or the original on this list, because the original Seven Wonders is just very nostalgic for me. I love that game. Do I think there are probably better card drafting games at this point in time? Probably, but I love Seven Wonders very, very much. I decided to go with Duel because I feel like Seven Wonders Duel feels more different every time I play it than original Seven Wonders. And I think that's primarily because of those 3 variant win conditions, where Seven Wonders base I love, but you are kind of doing the same thing every time, and there's less predictability because you're doing pick and pass drafting as opposed to this pyramid drafting that you're doing in Seven Wonders Duels. It feels like you have a little bit more control, and it's a little bit more aggressive, which I like. There's more direct player interaction. So just briefly, if you're unfamiliar, Seven Wonders Duel is the 2-player version of Seven Wonders. It keeps the spirit of Seven Wonders, but it really does mechanically function quite differently. Again, you're not doing pick and pass drafting. You're doing like an open pyramid style draft where you're drafting from the bottom and working your way up. And your economies are much more tied together between the 2 opponents. If you have a lot of one resource, that resource becomes very expensive for the other person. And I just really love that. And as I mentioned, there are 3 paths to victory in this game, where in regular Seven Wonders, it's just points. In Seven Wonders Duel, it can be regular points, but it can also be military. There's like a tug of war mechanic in military. There's also a bit of set collection in science, and you can win via those routes in addition to or instead of regular points. And this is my most played 2-player game. I play this with my partner endlessly. I will always, if you suggest Seven Wonders Duel, I'm always down to play it. It just feels so different and satisfying every time. That really interwoven economy between the 2 players, very satisfying. And I'm dying, but I like Seven Wonders Duel. That's the point I'm making. I love this game.
This is a brilliant game. I love this one as well, Ray. And I think I enjoyed Seven Wonders, but I think we had this conversation recently where Seven Wonders, it's a terrific game, but I don't feel like it's a gateway game. It's a gateway plus, but everyone talks about it as a gateway. I feel like it's a gateway plus, but I also agree that Seven Wonders Duel is a superior game. And if anything, it's a lot easier for me to understand the science scoring in Seven Wonders Duel rather than having to do calculus to figure out the original.
It's just set collection. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
exponential values or whatever.
Right. And I do love I'm glad you pointed this out, Ray, just the style of drafting, having those cards in that pyramid and then the little funky shape in the second and third rounds. I really prefer that over just, pick and pass. It's funny. It's just one little change, but it makes all the difference in the world, I feel like. It's fantastic.
Are you ready for the hottest take?
We want it. Yes, hottest take.
I swear to God, you say you don't like this game, I'm going to never be friends with you again.
Two players, 7 Wonders. The variant is better than this game.
Oh, we've had this conversation.
Yeah,
I've never played that. And
Richard feels the
have
same way.
Immense doubt that is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
I do not believe you.
It is for sure true. A 7 Wonders Duel is. I am excited with my copy of 7 Wonders Duel to get it out of my collection. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Hot takes.
On my next call, it's out the door.
2 players, 7 Wonders. Is it? But it doesn't have the variable. You're just picking and passing the same hand back and forth?
Fine.
Yeah. It's a dummy player, right?
It's a dummy player. There's a dummy player.
I hate dummy players. I hate them.
Well, it sounns like I'm sitting with 2 dummy players right now.
Because
7 Wonders Duel is just okay. You've heard it here first. It is the most overhyped game in board gaming history.
Wow.
It's like number 22 or something on Board Game Geek. What is it on Board Game Geek? Let's look it up right now.
Yeah, it's definitely top 25. I know that for a fact. That is because
fantastic.
It's so good.
It's
19.
It's literally so good.
Yeah, 19.
It's overall ranked 19, strategy 22. So when you get into the strategy, it goes down as well.
Yeah, it's super low on strategy. Oh my god. Folks, for more hot takes like this, be sure to watch the extended edition of the show. And why don't we move on to our number 1 on the list? Our Richard's got it. Richard, what is number 1?
All right, coming down to the wire. And Chris, sadly, we must divert paths now. I thought we were going to be in it to the end, and Avalon is certainly brilliant, just not the kind of game I'm looking for. Social party, hidden, role type stuff. It's a great example of the form, just not my bag. But yeah, I would happily play it with you sometime. But yeah, my God, only 3 games? Not for me. But, Morel, you came closest with Viticulture Essential Edition. But again, I'd have to say nay. If I could bring along expansions, which means if I could have Viticulture plus Viticulture Worlds, which is one of, to my way of thinking, the most impressive conversion of a competitive game into a co-op game the industry has ever seen, then yeah, Viticulture probably would have made my short list also. But, the standard game is a bit too swingy to be a good competitive game for my taste. And then Ray, 7 Wonders Duel, yeah, I know you're not alone in this. And some people would say, what? Such a simple little thing and only for 2 players? Yeah, totally. And I would consider it too if it weren't the unnecessarily mean, proactively cutthroat instead of, the kind of cutthroatness that I was able to find peace with in tiny towns. I have to admit, I'm really looking forward to the Lord of the Rings version that's coming later this year. My fingers are crossed that, Bowser, rethinks his war tracks so that I'm not literally just burning your stuff to the ground. But still, it makes sense. I'm not surprised. I think it. I'll allow it. It's a good number 2. Just not for me personally. But what is our combined number 1? Chris, hopefully I will win you back. Because after thinking about long and hard, I had to go with Aeon's End, the Legacy of Gravehold. And what does this one do? Oh, what does this do? It is a cooperative game. I had to have a co-op game in my top 3 must-haves of all time. It is a card game, a deck builder, more to the point. And I love big, elaborate card games. Neither of my other ones were, so I really needed to have. I love shuffling. Although, ironically, oh my gosh, I just said that out loud. The most, unique thing about Aeon's End is you never shuffle. So, I guess I won't be shuffling. Well, put that aside, it's still another one of the greatest cooperative games of all time. So influential. And another thing this thing does is, one of my 3 games had to be a big box full of content. And there has never been a bigger, deck builder box. I mean, this was, I like to call it the Marvel Cinematic Universe Endgame equivalent for Aeon's End, because it came after so much content was already available for the game, and yet this, I don't think there's ever been a card deck builder with as much content in one box. So many bosses, so many playable characters, so many different powers, a really great and very entertaining legacy campaign you can play through. But even if you don't care about that, once the campaign is done, you've still got more content in this box than most everything else on my shelf. You could play it a million different ways, a million different combinations of characters and bosses and markets that you're buying more cards from, and it never gets old. Such a brilliant design. The non-standard formula for how game structure works, driven by a turn order deck. Such a huge attention to detail, with players supplementing each other and helping each other every step of the way. Building up for huge, gratifying mega turns. Incredible variety for all the boss designs. I continue to this day to be blown away by all things Aeon End. But like I said, there's never been a bigger box full of card game content. Even if I don't get to shuffle any cards, that's okay. Number one on our combined list is Legacy of Gravehold for Aeon's End. But remember, folks, like I said, we're just getting started. Check out the extended. I got some more to talk about.
Okay, there it is. Number one. Chris, did Richard win you back with that one?
Oh, Richard's never left my heart. Richard deserves to be celebrated. Oh, there's the love flowing through the ether. We'll get the confetti going for Richard's beautiful choice. Yeah, it's a great pick. Aeon's End is awesome, and also like starting with a legacy version, I think is honestly one of the better ways to approach that. The first legacy is what I got into for Aeon's End, and they just build in all the little things that you need to know about your character, and it really provides it's how learning games want to be, I find, with the legacy. Or ever since after Legacy of Gravehold, they've had like 2 or 3 big boxes that you can have as starter sets, like the New Age or Outcasts. Both of those, I believe, have a little legacy system in them, and like Past and Future also have this like little legacy. They give you missions, they give you unlocks. So you get a boss, you get some new characters, you get some new like market cards, and it kind of simulates that legacy experience as well, in a way that isn't overwhelming, doesn't commit you to a campaign, and isn't a dumb family game for your first game before you get into the actual like real meat of it. It's just structured very well. So
nice.
Yeah, I will celebrate Richard.
All right.
Celebrate him to the moon.
Let's all celebrate Richard, shall we? Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the R&R Show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the link below for the extended edition, where we talk about a bunch more games. And until next time, we'll see you later here on the R&R Show. Take care. So long. Bye-bye. And hello, we're back. Woo! Oh, that was so good. Let's get to the other games that didn't make our list, and we've got a few more minutes to do that. Folks,
we'll get Richard out of the way first.
Yeah, so folks, again, thank you for sticking around, and let us know, if you didn't already, let us know what your must-have games, and we'll talk about those too. Richard, what other games didn't make the list?
Okay, like I said in the main show, this was a tough one to do. I considered so many games. And ultimately, while I stand by my 3, I've got a top 10 to tell you about now. Don't worry, Chris Ruane, I'm going to try and get through this as fast as possible. Each one of these, I'm not ranking these additional 7 games. I'm only presenting them in alphabetical order because each one of them is one I seriously considered squeezing in, and in the end these other ones just didn't quite tick as many boxes all in one box as my top 3 did. But I think they're all amazing, and again, they're all new to my lists. I've got plenty of other must-have lists. Links for them are down in the show notes if after you're done here you'd like to hear even more of the greatest board games of all time, to my taste anyway. But right now, let's get going. It is starting with the letter B for Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. Another thing I wanted to have on my list was a roll and write. And Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig might be my new favorite of all time. I've already done a run through for it, so you can find out more information there. But it so beautifully streamlines the great tile-laying gameplay of Castles of Mad King Ludwig. But it has this great gimmick with the vellum paper and whatnot, which, to be fair, on a desert island is one of my problems with it because it has a finite life cycle. Although, you know how this works. When it's getting towards the end, you just take your final piece of paper, you put it in a plastic sleeve, and then use pins forever for the rest of time. But those pins will run out too. So maybe it's not as good a desert island candidate. But hey, it didn't make my short list, but I really considered it quite a bit, as I did for Cascadia. I have re-fallen in love with Cascadia over the last year. When Jen and I did our long RV trip, we probably played Cascadia more than anything else because it's such a phenomenal tile laying game that does so much with so little, and it's also such a great gateway game. In the end, I couldn't put it in the tops because it only goes to 4 players, and Tiny Towns, which scratches a lot of the same itch for me, goes up to 6 players. But Cascadia almost took the crown. Then what else was there? Oh my gosh, Circle the Wagons. I've never seen a better example of extreme board game design efficiency. A 18 card deck that gives you infinite replayability as we're tiling. It's only for 2 players. I guess there's a solo mode if you get an expansion, but again, no expansions for me, which also means the spin-off update that's coming soon, which I'm very excited about as well. But even still, somehow I couldn't do it. I couldn't put if I only own 3 games, one of them being only 18 cards that once again I don't get to shuffle. It just didn't make sense, but I thought about it long and hard. And the same thing is true for Daybreak, another new hot title. This was my number 1 game of 2023, and more than anything else, any of them, including the ones I put on my short list, my top 3, Daybreak is just the one that it just threw me into hives. It gave me sweats thinking about throwing it away or walking away from it and never getting to play it again because it's so amazing. This is I think my number 12 highest ranked game of all time, and I really do think it has enough chops to be infinitely replayable. And of course, I love it for its message. I love it for its production practices. I love it for a lot of stuff. I love it for those QR codes, which of course I wouldn't be able to scan on a desert island. But that's beside the point. I couldn't do it because it's still too new. I'm still not quite sure. But, in 5 years, if I do another one of these must-haves, it might actually make the final list for real. What else? Glenmore 2 Chronicles. Glenmore is one of my favorite tile layers of all time. Are you seeing a pattern? I love tile laying. And Glenmore 2, while not as good as the original Glenmore, just in terms of raw gameplay, it's almost as good as the original Glenmore, but it has so much stuff in that box. Like my number 1, another huge box full of stuff, infinite ways that you can mix and match all these different modules and whatnot, and so that goes a long way towards making it onto my short list. I seriously considered that. And Maracaibo from Alexander Pfister. Here's the deal. It would have taken my Marrakesh slot if I could have included expansions, because Maracaibo, once you add Uprisings, becomes one of my favorite cooperative experiences there is, period. But I love just the competitive game too, and I love the way that Pfister weaves a replayable narrative story mode in. This is the best he's ever done it, and it's also probably the greatest rondel game of all time. I mean, it has so much going for it. Again, if I could break my rule and include expansions, it would have made the top 3. And then one more, and it's another big beastie box. It is the Pursuit of Happiness big box. Pursuit of Happiness has literally made me cry tears of joy as I played it, because it is one of these game of life style games. It's a worker placement game. It's very simple. It's another great potential gateway style game. But as Jen and I have finished games of this in the past, and we are literally moved to tears by the beauty of a life well lived, and being able to look back over our time playing it over the course of a couple of hours, but telling the story of a life. It's moving, it's human. It's the human condition in a box, told through simple math and gameplay mechanisms, and I love it to pieces. And in that big box, there is so much content, so many expansions. I love it. I again almost made it onto the list, and that is it, guys. Back to you. Can't wait to hear what else you had in mind.
All right, thanks, Richard. That is a lot of games, a lot of good ones. The two I wanted to highlight were Circle the Wagons, probably my favorite button shy game. I love that game, so good. 18 cards, as Richard mentioned, and then Cascadia, that was on my list as well. Just missed the cut.
Yeah, I figured Cascadia might be up there for some people. It wasn't quite for me, but it's going up. The more I play it, the more I enjoy it. I think that's like WSBG exposure personally for me.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Ray, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was reiterating what I was saying. Circle the Wagons is great.
Yeah. I have not played Pursuit of Happiness, but I know Richard, obviously he's a huge fan of it, and every time he talks about it, he always talks about how it moves him to tears, and I'm like, wow. Like, I want to give that game a shot. Have y'all have any experience with that game? No?
I've heard of it extensively, but I've never played it.
Yeah.
People in my Discord have been talking about it a bit, and talking about posting game sessions. We have a game sessions tab. Mm-hmm. So I've become interested in it through that. But that's my exposure. Chat. Anybody in chat play Pursuit?
Yeah, let us know. Let us know, folks. So I'll talk about a couple of games that didn't make it on my list. Of course, let's see. Y'all know Viticulture, Samurai, Baseball Highlights. Azul barely missed the list. I feel like that's a classic, modern classic game. Another Knizia, Lost Cities. I think that's a brilliant two-player game. Cascadia was on there. We got a couple of newer ones that have really, found a place in my heart recently. Sky Team, which I think is an absolutely brilliant two-player. Yeah. Now, Ray, that's a co-op game. What do you think about that?
I like it.
Okay, you like it.
I like Sky Team, and I can't really articulate why.
Yeah.
I think in general, two-player co-ops I tend to vibe with more than big group co-ops, just because that quarterbacking feels less apparent.
Yeah.
And I like the tension. I like the different roles. I like that you really can't quarterback. You really can't tell the other person what to do because you don't always know what the other person has. No, Sky Team is one of those rare co-ops that really hits for me. I like it a lot.
Nice. Yeah. Another one recently I played this for the first and second, third times recently, and I had to retroactively go back and say this is one of the best games of 2023, and it's Wonderland's War. That game, brilliant. Chef's Kiss. It's Quaxaquidlenburg, but with area control on this huge board. It's amazing. The other ones, It's a Wonderful World. That we're talking about Seven Wonders.
Yeah.
People said it was a Seven Wonders killer. I thought it was. I don't know if it was a killer, but I really like the way drafting works in that game. And finally,
Seven Wonders isn't on your list, is it?
No, it's more shots fired. I love it. And Chris, you've talked about a couple of games that your exposure at the WSBG is really giving you a new appreciation. This one did it for me, The Red Cathedral. I loved the game beforehand. I actually said I had strong likes for this game. And then Paula Deming and we called the final table. And just through that process of, relearning the game, calling the action, and then afterwards I played it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is definitely one of the best games ever. So Red Cathedral, that's the one that didn't make my list. What about y'all? Any ones that you want to talk about?
Red Cathedral was on my list as well, my short list.
Nice.
It's so good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
One that I am bummed didn't get on is Sheriff of Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham is like a staple for me.
Yeah.
I think it just hits. It hits with so many different people as long as you're ready to be a bit silly. It can really miss though if you're not it depends on it really depends on the group. I know if I'm leading it, I can then start the silliness of the bidding and the bribery and that sort of thing. And then people can go, oh, okay, this is allowed. This is allowed. I'll be like, doesn't smell like cheese in here.
Yeah.
Start shaking it around. I'm like, any chickens in there? Any chickens? Huh? And really just getting into the silliness of it. But sure.
That's a great God. I haven't played Sheriff of Nottingham in a while. That's a great pick though. It definitely depends on the people you're playing with. I don't know. I can't remember if I told this story on stream before or not. Have I told you about my mom's real life version of Sheriff of Nottingham? That when she runs this, she does. She like has
I
built
think you
real
might
life
have.
like stacks and stuff. She makes people like RP it. It's amazing.
That's so. I think you might have talked, but she. So
think I
But it might not
probably
have been on
did.
stream. It might have been
But-
just like us chatting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she actually has like
whenever I
big
think of her-
sacks, and then you put like
she's
fruit.
made props for the whole thing.
my
yeah,
gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
so funny.
I love
Yeah,
that.
she's ridiculous. I love her.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. The other one that was on mine was Santorini as well. I just really like
Oh.
Santorini.
Good one.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like I was actively looking for like a secondhand copy of before the like the new one came out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I just think like it's just so slick. And
Yeah.
I would be sad. I would be very sad if I never got to play Santorini again. That's kind of like the idea of like, oh, I'd be sad if this game didn't exist. Some games I would be like, I'll be fine. But I still really, really like them. But like other things could fill that void, right? But
Yeah.
now, Ray, I do have a question for you. You now have 4 games that you can keep. Only 4 though. So what's the 4th one that you can keep?
The 4th one on my list, because I did send in 4 for this just in case there was overlap. My 4th one was going to be In Cahoots, which is that garage sale party game that we picked up that has an unknown origin. I love that. Is my single most played game of all time. I love that game, but at the end of the day, Phantom Inc. beat it out, partially just because I have played In Cahoots so very much. There is sort of a potential to make a homemade version of that game because it is really just like the act of owning that game is really nothing special. It's like one of the worst boxes I've ever seen. It's got terrible production value. Like at the end of the day, the scary Repo Man comes and takes In Cahoots from me. I will probably just make my own version of it because the quality would not be demonstrably different. But I talked about that game before during our party game streams. I wanted to talk about Phantom Inc. and kind of swap because In Cahoots had made my best party games and Phantom Inc. was a runner-up, and I wanted to swap those partially because of that expansion coming out for Phantom Inc. I am actively more excited for that right now, but In Cahoots was my 4th, and I again existential crisis about which one of those I wanted to have. I wanted to have a party game on the list, but which one really stressed me out, and I just eventually just made the call and I was like, I'm picking Phantom Inc. and I'm moving on with my life.
Now, this is a bit weird, Ray. I think there's a knock at your door. The Repo Man's come back,
Shut
and the
up.
Repo Man is holding one single board game.
Don't do
And you called ahead. The Repo Man called. You said, "Hey, Repo Man, I really want this game back." And now the Repo Man is going to bring it to your door. What game is that? It's one more. It's just
you
one
lost
more.
me in this hypothetical. This is I get one more.
Yeah, you get one more.
If I get one more,
The Repo Man's bringing it back.
very, very benevolent Repo Man.
Yeah.
That's so hard because the rest of them are all like those. That was my numbered list. After that,
but
it
it's
falls
only
off.
one. But it's only one, Ray.
Is this it? Is this done? Is this the last one I get?
This is
This
the
is
last
it?
one. This is the last one you get. You don't get any other games after this. Nothing. You are gameless, barren.
Oh.
Your shelves are empty. All the shelves
my
behind you,
God.
they're waiting to be filled. All the joy you once had is gone. But you have a chance to save one more game from the fires of doom.
I
Just
probably
one more.
Well, when you're saying it this dramatically, I want to pick something that just has heavy nostalgia for me because I'm like about to cry with this. Just
Sure, you
but
can do that.
I'd probably go Quacks. I'd probably go Quacks with
Okay.
Budlingberg. That if I have to make the call, I'd probably go Quacks. I
Guess
love
what?
that. I
The
love that
Repo
game.
the Repo Man has given you Quacks.
Wow.
Quacks is now back on
What
your
a
shelf.
kind Repo
But
Man.
what's this? Underneath Quacks, there was actually another game.
Chris?
There was a second
This
game
bad?
under that Quack. It was holding on to Quacks, and they revealed it. What game did they reveal, Ray? There was one more.
Oh my God! Probably the next on my list, the one that I was debating was probably Wingspan, just because I have a heavy nostalgia for that one.
Yep.
I left it off because I was like, I haven't actually brought Wingspan to the table in a very long time. I play Wingspan digitally all the time, but I was like, if you take the physical copy of Wingspan out of my house, I'd be sad because I'm really nostalgic for it. But like,
You can
I
play it
don't
online.
get
Play
that to
the
the
app.
table that much.
Yeah.
Which I know
Yeah.
maybe is like not really the spirit of this list is like once you start thinking about digital implementations or whatever. But I honestly was like, played a lot of Wingspan. I could I could call this as someone who's never called a game ever. So truly, my answer to this list is every game I've ever owned.
Yep.
Because I have not brought myself to get rid of any of them.
But what's wonderful is that this list has shown you that you could get rid of a whole bunch
do it.
and be okay.
I have the strength in me.
You
Yeah.
have that strength in you.
Oh.
Chicken Free Cage says the Repo Man rebate, and that's like saying Beetlejuice, because guess what? Underneath Wingspan, there's one more game, Ray. There's just one more. There's just one more. There's one more. That is just the last one because we're running out of time, so it can only be this last one.
Last on my list was Telestrations. Was going to be the other one on my party game pocket.
Wonderful game.
Because that one just feels so endlessly replayable because it's so different and ridiculous with everyone you play with. It's kind of debatable whether or not it's like a proper board game because I don't play it competitively at all. It's I kind of slot it more into the activity bracket, but I mean it comes in a box, it's got cards, it's a board game by that definition. And it is endlessly replayable because at this point in my life I played so much Telestrations that now I just let people write whatever they want, like big long, tell me a short story and then pass that along, and that will never get old for me. That is always so fun.
It's great
John
game.
Tripp says this is why you always tip your Repo Man.
There you go. That's
right.
The life lesson here is to fear the existence of the real life board game Repo Man and to give him a nice tip when he does come and cartoonishly vacuum up half your collection.
It was a vacuum, wasn't it? It was a big vacuum. That's how they got through your laser system. They just put the vacuum in and then started sucking them out. Didn't even have to enter the premises.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the R&R Show. Thanks again for hanging out, especially y'all who hung out during the pre and post show. Now we're going to send you on to another board game channel, which I'm trying to do right now. Let's see, who's playing board games? We've got a few choices here.
Don't fear the
we got
Repo.
Leader Games is live talking to Cole.
Leaders?
Oh, just kidding. They are not live anymore.
They just
I literally lied. I'm such a big liar. I love lying.
I saw them earlier. I think they just went off. So
that's why you love Avalon so much above any other game.
All the lying, folks. Let's see. They're playing. Looks like someone's playing. Are they playing Terraforming Mars? They are. We're gonna send it over to Terraforming Mars stream. Yeah. Okay, folks, stick around. You're going to get extra Rahdo points. Thank you again so much. Appreciate you, Ray. Thank you, Chris, as well. We'll see you next time, everybody. And stick around for the raid, which is starting in 10 seconds, which I just pressed the button. Bye. Bye, folks.
Bye.
I hope it worked. Let's see if it worked.
I hope it worked.
I hope it works.
Yeah.
And it worked. Okay.